Hello and welcome to this historic best of 3 deck tech and gameplay video on Death Shadow. That's right, I'm finally gotten around to trying my own version of Death Shadow, and after the last couple of weeks of testing with this particular list, I think I found and arrived on a pretty good place. Death Shadow revolves around the eponymous Death Shadow itself, which wants us to lower our life total fairly low so that when we play our Death Shadow for 1 mana, it's a big old scary boy. We do that through a variety of ways, from utility cards like Orzhov Charm, Painful Bond, and Thoughtseize, to generally interact with our opponent or to draw us cards. Basically, these function as sort of our glue, amongst others, to hold the deck together. We're also running some good creature cards that can affect our own life total as well as just, be creatures if we need them to. Murderous Rider for removal, Adanto Vanguard as a sticky threat. We also are running, in the lieu of some more glue cards, Skyclave for interaction on a body, and a couple of Ranger Captain of Eoses, just so we can get... so the Ranger Captains can effectively function as additional copies of Death Shadow or even Esper Sentinel. And hey, sometimes we get to make our opponents not cast non-creatures, but that's not why it's there. The land base is a very particular set of lands. For the most part, we try to run all of the good dual color lands that can manipulate our life total, from Godless Shrine to just shocking the land in, as well as our 2 pain lands here in Caves of Kolios and Silent Clearing. Silent Clearing being nice because it can double its card draw, and a Mana Confluence, all of which are, again, more ways to slowly chip and kind of control where our life total is, as well as even a Castle Locthwain, because, hey, card draw is nice, and we don't mind losing a good chunk of health from a Castle Locthwain in this particular deck. And that is the basics of the list. We basically just want to, or the basics of the main board of the list. We just want to lower our life total, answer our opponent's board, try not to die, and beat him up with Death Shadow. As for the sideboard, all entirely understandable silver bullet pieces. Rest in Peace for graveyards. Another Thalia and Orcish Bowmasters can go in against the more controlling decks. Tainted Remedy for the loads of life gain decks that are floating around. A couple Lauren of the Third Path for some naturalizes on a body. Anguished Unmaking is a pretty good just general removal card that we also don't mind losing life to. And it's our resident answer card for the One Ring, which I think any responsible deck builder just needs to have right now. Then we have a couple of Subtler Wreckages, so we have a one-sided board wipe. And we do have a single Cleansing Nova if we need a more traditional board wipe that can also sometimes just blow out the affinities and enchantress decks of the world. And that's all for the video, or all for the deck tech, pardon. Don't forget to like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future. And now we'll go on to game number 1. And game number 1 with our Death Shadow list. And yeah, 2 lands, things to play. We'll go ahead and keep. A 2-lander is an acceptable thing to keep since the curve of our deck is pretty low. I'm sorry, what? Ancient Ziggurat, okay. We'll go ahead and play the Hive of the Eye Tyrant here and cast a Thoughtseize so I can figure out what the hell my opponent's doing. Why is that in there? Ugh, whatever. Vigilance and Haste. Yeah, we'll get rid of Urtai. We're going to leave the Flowering of the White Tree since he can't really cast it right now. What are you shocking? Oh. Wait, what? Okay. I know I saw that. My brain's not retaining information at this particular point in time. It's an Arwen. Enter battlefield indestructible. Counter on it. 1 mana. Remove said counter from Arwen. Or from A. Another target creature, indestruct and a turn, 1 counter, and lifelink counter on that creature. I mean, okay, a little weird. Go ahead and play the Esper Sentinel. I think we're in an okay spot, right? Of course, we're not going to play the Death Shadow since it would just die immediately. Okay, I guess he can play the Flowering of the White Tree with a Delighted Halfling now. That's fine. What is my opponent's deck? I love this. I don't know that it's good, but, like, I'm in it. I'm in for this. I think we'll go ahead and get rid of the Thalia, Heretic Cathar. I don't know how we do against this deck, because if I'm being honest here, I haven't really discovered or encountered whatever the hell my opponent's running. That's fine. I'll take that card draw. Guess we do kind of have to start chump blocking this thing. Arwen's pretty good. Oh, wait a second. It's... Oh, no, I can do that. Now we can do the Skyclave. And it's Ward 1, so we'll do the auto pay. Don't mind pinging ourselves. Getting rid of the Arwen. I am aware. We'll happily pay the ward cost. We're also in a pretty good spot. Our opponent hasn't been hitting a whole lot of land drops. And they don't have the colors for their weird 5-color pile of cards. We'll go ahead and play the Castle Lockthwain. I think we will go ahead and ping ourselves here for a couple of 1 damage intervals. So we can play our Death Shadows. We're not going to attack. We don't want to give our opponent a 3/3 blocker if we don't have to. I guess they could have removal, but, like, my god, if they have managed to, like, squeeze removal into this thing, that would be silly. What one? I think we just Murderous Rider. Again, Murderous Rider, the Thalia. Happily take the... pay the 1, or we'll pay the non-ping damage. Now this is where, if you're going to pilot your own version your own version of this Death Shadow, you will have to bear in mind a thing that I have finally come to understand. As far as I've been able to tell, the biggest, we'll say hurdle in piloting a Death Shadow list is knowing how low to get. Oh, it's a Joda deck. Okay, that makes more sense. But yeah, is knowing how low you can get comfortably in a particular matchup. Like, our opponent's deck, I don't think they're going to have much burn. I would assume not, anyway. So we can play pretty fast and loose with this particular thing. But say if your opponent was a red deck and had, like, any burn spell ever, you have to be a little careful. And there are turns like this. Thanks. Thank you for killing my ability to explain, opponent. But let me go back to this for 2 seconds. There are moments like this where not only do you have to keep in mind the matchup you're going into, but also you need to know the match you're going into in case of, like, the odd, removal spell or, like, burn spell that could just kill you if you don't play carefully. But also you need to know when to, like, really take your shot and, like, pump a Death Shadow up really, really big and just bonk your opponent for a load. Because this deck does not do well going long. It's just the reality of it. This is a pretty fair deck. Now, back to the sideboard. I think the Bow Masters can go out. I don't think they're going to be that useful. Some Anguish and Makings is not bad. I want to add a Settle, but I think I'm going to hold off. Because I think our opponent's deck is trying to do too much on a really weird mana base. So I think, fingers crossed, that we can kind of get away with not planning for the eventual board-based reality, if that makes sense. Anywho, it's a little land heavy, but it's like fine. You take those. Another Angel Ziggurat. I don't think I need to be really aggressive, however, with lowering our own life total, because they are playing creatures themselves. Dennick. I mean, fine. But that's fine. We will go ahead and play the God of the Shrine and make it come and play untapped. Playing a Vanguard. Our opponent does have to be a little bit, or well, I would hope our opponent would know to be a little bit careful with just attacking willy-nilly, because I do want my creatures to, or not, I want my creatures, sorry. I want my life total to get low so that I can use my Death Shadow early on. As my brain locks up, we will go ahead and start trading off a little bit in the meantime. Yeah, I think we will do a God of the Shrine. Playing a Ranger Captain of Eos, which will find us a Death Shadow. Why is this so loud? We will get another Death Shadow if I can target the damn thing. Okay, this is so loud in my ears. I'm going to turn this down a couple degrees. There we go. I think we can safely say we're not going to probably need to activate the Ranger Captain. So we can always block a delighted halfling. Oh, is it 5-color humans, I guess? Or legendary humans? Exile player's graveyard. But you can't... Oh, cards and graveyards, not the graveyard itself. Humans you control, gain hexproof. Okay, that's pretty good. Credit given. It's not really that big of a deal to us. Take those. I guess the million-dollar question is, I think we let the Dinnick through if it attacks. Yeah. Yeah. They're down to 1 card in hand. I would be very surprised if they have a whole lot of card draw in particular. I mean, maybe, what's that blue card? That, like, Distant Melody, 4-mana draw for your tribe thing. There's an argument that they might do that. Okay. Sacrifice it. I think we just need to play a little safe. We'll play both of our Death Shadows. And it's holding up priority because of the Jurini, or however you pronounce her name. Play the other Death Shadow. Then play an Esper Sentinel. We will, if we need to, potentially chump block with either the Ranger Captain or the Esper Sentinel. We don't need to attack right now. They're at such a high life total that we're not going to be in any rush to make this happen, regardless. Plaza of Heroes is pretty good. That's lovely. I'm starting to come around to my opponent's deck. I don't know if it's good, but it's fascinating. Yeah, I think we're just... That's kind of massive. Huh. I guess the million-dollar question is... Hang on, what are... Okay. I am gonna Skyclave Apparition away some of their creatures. Yeah. There's an argument to be made that we can do it to the Flowering of the White Tree enchantment. But right now, I think we just want to make our opponent make choices. He's either going to have to lose this or lose a Plaza of Heroes. We're actually kind of okay with that, so now we can block with our Skyclave Apparition if we need to. And another perk of all of these Pain lands is that you get to make, which might seem at first glance like bad trades, to give away these Death Shadows. If they choose to block, we can always just tap to add a mana, let it float, and then just let it go out of our mana pool. Normally, you don't really want to do that in any other matchup. But again, because our Death Shadows are the whole point of our deck, we don't mind making what would otherwise be weird kind of technically bad plays for the sake of, like, getting some damage in. Okay, let's see what we're doing now. I can play a Mana Confluence. He has 2 Plaza of Heroes, 1 card in hand. It's not great. I think we're just going to do a Murderous Rider on the Dinnick. We will gladly pay the 1. Now, he could activate the Plaza of Heroes. But to be honest, we have to make our opponent use those. Otherwise, they're never going to go anywhere. And yeah, I think we just keep hitting with Death Shadows here. Yes, they can block for free with Dinnick here. But again, we're just trying to chip into our opponent's life total because this Dinnick is going to start making real problems for us. At the end of our turn, we're probably just going to crack our Silent Clearing here for a card if they don't attack. If they do, we just chump block one of our inconsequential creatures. And yeah, we will go ahead and crack our Silent Clearing. Again, don't mind taking some damage. I cannot think of a legendary human that they're just going to play that would get me. Shadow Spear. Okay, you know, I think we can do that. We'll play a Thalia. We play a Shadow Spear. I think we will equip the Shadow Spear onto our Thalia. Because we don't want to gain too much life right now and make our Death Shadows weaker. And I know that the Shadow Spear would seem like a counterintuitive play based on what the Death Shadow a Death Shadows list would want to do, which we've talked about already, which is having a low life total. But sometimes you just need a Shadow Spear style card so you don't just die all of a sudden to a spare creature or to a spare, burn spell. Shadow Spear allows us to do what we talked about earlier, in that it lets you have more control over where your life total is and isn't, how high do you want the life total to be, how high do you want it to not be. It just gives you a little bit more, what's the word, agency. Deck is all over the place, and like, part of me wants to hate it, but I also kind of love it. Let me see here. What do we draw? Well, that's useless. Okay, we would never in a million years attack with a Thalia anyway. This is a really weird spot. I think I'm gonna equip a Shadow Spear to one of our Death Shadows here, knowing full well that it'll basically kill both of our Death Shadows, but our opponent has a flyer and we don't have a blocker for a flyer. And right now we need to make our opponent make choices here. And I said I wasn't going to attack. How much damage am I sitting on? 8 and 7, 15, 15, 3, 18, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So wait, if I attack, he has to block some things. Yes, we're giving up. Let me keep this back. Yeah, we're doing right. Let's see. Yeah, 8 and 7, 15, 15 and 18, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, this lets our Esper Sentinel remain as a chump blocker if we need it to. And this is making our opponent make some weird trades, but we're kind of okay with that. How much damage are we doing? 815. So if I were to take 2 more damage, they would go to 10 and 9 to 19. Right? I don't think there's... I don't think there's any way I can, like, sneak out a kill here. Right? You know, there's a no, I wouldn't have been able to do both. Okay. Yeah. I maintain that was still the correct thing to do in that moment, because we were going to basically almost certainly die to the flying half of Dennick here. Yeah. Investigate. Which point... just have to equip the Esper Sentinel. We might not be in a great spot, but, like, that's fine. We just have to accept that these are going to happen sometimes. And now I can say with a greater degree of safety that, yeah, we're going to bring in the Settle the Wreckages here. Can't be countered, which is cool, but I wasn't going to counter. Yeah. Hang on, I don't think... there's any... yeah, there's nothing I do here. That's cool. I love our opponent's deck. I hate Joda as a commander, but, like, I'm okay with it. Like, regular constructed. Yeah, the Bowmasters are pretty useless, and so are the Thalias. They aren't casting that many non-creatures, if any at all. To the point where I might actually bring the Cleansing Nova also. Yeah, we don't want to blow up our own board, but it's either have no board and be alive or have a board and be dead. So, that situation kind of solves itself. Make sure I'm still recording, because if I lost that game, I was going to be real upset. Go ahead and play first. 3 lands, 4 spells, things to do. A fantastic opener. Go ahead and pay 2 life for the Godless Shrine. Thoughtseize our opponent. See what we can get out of their hand. Yeah, it's got to be Thalia. That's gonna mess with our early aggressive plan. In the meantime, on turn 2, playing a Danto Vanguard. I don't think they're gonna have that many things to do on turn 2, other than I guess the Dennick we saw earlier would be a thing. And a Delighted Halfling. That too is an option. In that case, play one of our Pain lands. Just attack with our Adanto Vanguard. If they decide to block, we 1000% make that trade and pay the 4 life. Now we can retain our Murderous Rider to get rid of any big scary creature they might otherwise do. I guess he could play a Boromir. Halana and Elena. Okay. Let me full control. Oh, no, that's going to go to combat. No, that's right. Yeah, we're good. We want to get rid of that? Yeah, before we go to combat. Down to 13. Huh. I think I might actually just super aggressively just dump my life with the Danto Vanguard. Play some Death Shadows. Hope we don't die, but, like, maybe squeeze out a win, weirdly? Okay, this is kind of cool. Under normal circumstances, I would not advise you just dump a load of your life on a whim like that. But we've seen their deck. They know that odds are they're not going to super be able to answer everything that we're going to throw at them. They are a primarily creature-based deck, and yes, we've seen some weird ones like, I think, like your Urtais of the world, which I think can bounce a creature. But for the most part, I don't think they're going to have too much generic removal. Yay! I love when you sneak out goofy wins. You shouldn't have any right to win. That's great. And as I have to be honest, at the beginning of testing a couple weeks ago with Death Shadow, previous little versions that I had tried and hadn't gotten that much success with, I was convinced that Death Shadow was like a Tarmogoyf and it's like a meme that, like, can't really stand the test of time anymore. But the more I do testing, I actually think Death Shadow has, like, real legs. Now, will it be, top of Mythic, best deck in the format. It just won't. There's no way. Because the moment that a meta gets a little more honest and fair with aggressive decks and burn decks, Death Shadow suffers immeasurably. But the meta, in my experience, is not really like that. So you can get away with doing goofy stuff, like dumping all your life to an Adonto Vanguard. And actually, this board state, before we go on to game number 2, is a fantastic point to reinforce the point that I've made several times. And like I just said, we can do aggressive plays like we did with the Vanguard because the format isn't very aggressive, isn't very honest, as some might say. But imagine if our opponent had a single lightning strike, or the more common burn spell you'll sometimes see, like a lightning helix. Imagine if we tried to do that goofy play now. They could just, in theory, our opponent could just cast a lightning helix, we're on 3, and we'd be dead. So let it be shown that the success of this deck is very meta dependent. Now, you can still, get wins and do your, daily quest like that and get your daily 4 wins thing, and you can farm some money with this, but just understand that you have to really understand what your meta is in terms of like speed and aggression wise. Now, anywho, on to game number 2. And game number 2 with our Death Shadows list. And again, we go first because we have a brain. 2 lands, some spells. No turn 1. Okay, well, there's technically a turn 1 play, but it's never a thing we would play on turn 1. But this is a good enough hand that we're just going to take a good one here. A bird in the hands worth 2 in the bush and all that stuff. Probably just play a Mana Confluence on 1. We're going to not do that. Have a couple of Adonto Vanguards. We can really start to apply some pressure. No, please. Please, I hope with every fiber of my goddamn being it's a mirror matchup. I haven't seen... I can measure the amount of... how long it's been since I've seen a Death Shadow on my opposing player's board. That is a amount of time measured in months. And I'm like talking 6-7 months. It's been a long goddamn time. Please, please, please be a mirror matchup. That'd be the best goddamn end to this. Because I have, needless to say, by my previous 6 months thing, I have not seen a single Death Shadow mirror matchup. Ooh, that's a good one. If you're doing like a Rakdos version, that's pretty good. We'll go ahead and do the God of the Shrine. Get our little Adonto Vanguards going. Because we don't know what our opponent's doing guaranteed. We're not going to try and be cute like we did last game and just nuke our own life total with a Death Shadow without any information. And not for nothing, Adonto Vanguards are just a fine aggressive threat. Jund. I mean... okay, that sucks, because he's going to take my Orzhov Charm. We don't like that. Yeah, he has to take the Charm. But now that we know that, I think it's time to get cute. Right? Don't go too low. Let's not, like, get real goofy with it. But yeah, we'll go ahead and play the Pathway on black. Playing a Death Shadow. We go ahead and 1000% take that trade. Huh. Yeah. Like... hang on, let me read this card again. Can you cast things lower than its intensity? Equal to its intensity from your graveyard. Okay, so you can't go... it's not equal or lesser. Okay, yeah. I love this. That's great. I'm so grateful I'm not getting punished for making greedy plays, because it'd look real stupid if I did. I mean, it's just kind of a Jund list. Like, I mean, okay, yeah, we saw so little. Like, we saw that they were playing Jund, and like, when you see the occasional Boomer Jund floating around, more or less, they all, they're kind of all after the same thing. They all play similar ways because they're all, as the name would imply, Boomer Jund. They're playing their Tarmogoyfs and they're possibly Death Shadow. I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe a Deathrite Shaman or two in there, even though it shouldn't be. But as a result, if you understand like a little bit of the history of like older format Junds, where Boomer Junds come from, I mean, besides like the new Crucius and that Jarsel red-green intensity dude whose name I can't remember, even though I just saw him, as long as you are aware of like both the cards that they will run because they have to farm that nostalgia, but also the cards that were good enough to make it into the versions of the list, like the alchemy cards. Once you know that, you know a pretty goddamn big like chunk of their deck. Now granted, I could be totally wrong and look like an absolute maroon in like no time at all. Very possible. If our opponent does a Thoughtseize on turn, like Thoughtseize, it's one of those, a Thoughtseize are also possibly a Inquisition of Kozilek. Those are both, they're fine. They're perfectly fine Boomer Jund mid-rangey good value cards. But they're so good that like I've sort of, I know I've just said it again, but I'm gonna nail the point home because I mean it. Because I already know what a good chunk of your deck is. Like, it sounds silly and like the most obvious fucking statement on the planet, but it's nice to have that kind of knowledge before the game even starts. Like, the moment you see, the 3 colors and a single Boomer Jund card, you kind of know all of what their deck's going to be, and it allows me to make, quasi-informed decisions. Scavenging Ooze is another good one. That's another good example of like a Boomer Jund card. Oh, right. No. Yeah, we attack 1,000%. There's no way he takes that trade because he... Yeah, there's no way he takes that trade. I had to collect my thoughts there for a second. Because... And I don't... And this goes for me talking about Boomer Jund in the general sense. I say that more as like a Magic colloquialism and not as a like what's the word? Pejorative word. I just mean that in the way that, that we have all these weird slang terms. All of that being said, one thing you can guarantee that if a player is playing a Boomer Jund list, that odds are they've been around for long enough to earn that title, and they know what they're doing. And they've probably gotten a load of really good testing and piloting in, so they're really comfortable with what their deck is and can be.
I must fight back.
I think we just... Yeah. Gonna play a Mana Confluence. Happily pay all the life we need. Get rid of their Wrenn. Go ahead, attack. Parts of the... How do I word my next thought? One of the down... This is another, like... another example of no shit writing. But in case you're newer... to Magic and or Historic, yes, you can run 3-color decks like this, but you're gonna have to make weird choices in land bases, like all of these shock lands, to the point where we're doing pretty good against our opponent, and we've only connected like 1 or 2 times. Just by the nature of them having to shock all their lands and to do stuff on curve. Oh, I answered my own question. I was thinking about attacking, but if they want to activate their Fable of the Mirror Breaker, odds are it's up to 2. So yeah, we can, if nothing else, we can get activations of the Bowmaster until next turn, where we can, you know, play Death Shadow, maybe equip a Shadow Spear, just see whatever our play and wherever the game takes us, if you will. They correctly so do not discard shit, because like we talked about, and I mean this with every bit of sincerity that I can muster, if you're playing Boomer Jun, you're not a bad player. You're very smart and knowledgeable of the game. So more often than not, you're... What the fuck is this? Okay, that's... Okay, that's so not what I expected to see. Okay, yeah. Yeah. That... What the fuck is that? Okay. Sure. We'll go ahead and play a Silent Clearing. Play a Death Shadow. Happily lose the life. Let me do some math here so I can... I'll pay 2, going down to 7. So then I will attack with a Skycleave Apparition, going up to 9, bringing our Death Shadow back to 3 like it started. Yeah, man. If sounds silly that like one of the most intensive things about this list, or it's the most of its complexity, however you want to word it, is just keeping track of all of the math of where your life is going to be and how low it is and how can you go up and down, all of that shit. It is a really interesting angle to play on that has admittedly cost me some wins. Let's be honest. We'll go ahead and crack one of our Silent Clearings. We would love to find a Orcish Bowmaster. We're not going to do that, are we? Do a cave. I think we will go ahead and crack our Silent Clearing. Maybe we find one of the Bowmasters, but we don't. In that case, we will just do a... Hang on, wait a second. Let me think about this math. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go down to 4. Yeah, it should... It resolves down to 4. He has protection from everything, sadly. So we're just going to keep our mana open. God, if we... So in our next game, we're gonna guaranteed bring in some Anguished Unmakings for the 1 ring, as well as... Great. Some Orcish Bowmasters to punish all the card drawing that you will be doing with said 1 ring. Okay, we might be in a really bad spot now. Get the fuck out! Hang on, wait a second. Hold on. Okay, so I gotta be careful. Oh no, it just dies immediately, doesn't it? God damn it. Fuck. Fuck. Why is that in here? Okay, I think our plan remains the same. Largely. We're gonna attack with the Apparition. Maybe trick him into blocking here. Okay. There's no way he's just going to let it happen. And then in response, we will Orcish Bowmaster. Admittedly, it's going to die immediately, but that Knight of Souls Betrayal is going to get me no matter what happens. Also, a fucking weird card. I still get the Enter the Battlefield effect, so the Ooze will die. And I think because it's trample damage, the damage still goes through, right? Or does that not? Yeah, I thought so. He does still get the life gain out of it, which is, like, not great, but, you know, we're not really in a spot to complain. Hopefully they do not find their other 1 ring. But that's one of the things, for whatever reason. The One Ring isn't restricted to a single copy, like I believe it should be. And One Ring can tap to fund you another One Ring. Yeah, 1000% they have to draw. Otherwise, they're, like, real dead. They have the mana to play it if they find it. A Shieldred would suck, too. Hang on. Hang on here. Okay, we got to be careful now. So we're going to play a Lochthwain. We're not going to activate the Lochthwain right now. We're just going to attack with our lifelinkers. Maybe they have their own Bowmaster? Because if I were to activate the... Really? I mean, okay. I guess. I think there's one swamp in here left? Yeah. Oh, that's really bad. That might be... We gotta look now, because we're really dead now. Well, the Ranger Captain will not do it. That is so frustrating. Yeah, we designed Crackback. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna grab it. Yeah, Anguish and Makings all day long. And I think we're actually gonna grab some Lauren of the Third Paths. Hold on, Settle. I didn't want you. Get out of there. Bowmasters would be nice. Thalias are pretty good. Now we're in the weird spot of what to get rid of. Orzhov Charm's pretty good. But not that good. So I think the Charms can go. What to get rid of? Maybe a couple Thought Seizes? Because with some of their... Because I bet money they have a Croxa we just didn't see. And with their green-white alchemy dude, Jar Seal, whatever his name is, you don't want to put too much stuff into their graveyard if you can avoid it. Go ahead and play first again. That's fine. Again, not great. We would have preferred to have like an Esper Sentinel in our hand turn 1, or I would say a Thoughtseize, but we did just cut a couple, so you can't really be too mad that you didn't find one. Again, make sure I'm recording, because this has actually been like a really interesting game. Because really, I guess when you think about it, we are kind of both playing like some boomery old school list. Because, I mean, really, that's what Death Shadow is. I mean, it doesn't seem like an old list, but like, I mean, it used to actually be more of a thing. And in older formats where like fetch lands are a thing, I imagine Death Shadow is a little easier to get to work. But fetch lands are not legal in this, and I'm almost certain they're going to be pre-banned if they ever come, whenever we get to like a Khans of Tarkir remaster. Anywho, play the Untitled Vanguard. We now have things to do, mana to do the things with. We're not in a bad spot. Pardon the yawn. I mean, that's a Scooge. That's fine. Go ahead and play Pathway on... Yeah, we'll do it in a white. Go ahead and swing. See if he takes the block. I don't think he does. We're actually going to use the Murderous Rider. Because I want to be able to... I was going to use the Apparition at first, but if I can keep the Apparition to get rid of, like a One Ring or something, I will happily choose to do that. Yeah, Crucius, that Jar Seal dude. Fable of the Mirror Breakers, also a good one. I think our play remains largely the same, however. Play another Odonto Vanguard and an Esper Sentinel. Hopefully get some card draw. I would assume they don't take this trade, but if they do, we're happy to make it. probably going to draw and discard, because they don't have to worry about a Bowmaster. If nothing else, getting rid of some lands. I mean, props on our opponent for trying new things in their junk list, like, sincerely. I don't know if the Palantir is, like, what you want to do. But, I mean, I could be wrong. That's possible. Feeling in a pretty good spot. And there's the old boy Jarseal, which is real cool. But at least, no matter what he decides to Thought Seize away, I can always use the other form of removal to get rid of the Jarseal. He says, why did he do that like that? Oh, paying the Esper Sentinel 1. If nothing else, is what I assumed why he did that. Yeah. That's fair. Takes the apparition. And we... Unless they have, like, another Thought Seize, which would suck. We'll go ahead and take that. And, yeah, we gotta get rid of the Jarseal. And in reality, it's not that bad of a thing, really. And honestly, like, we're doing a pretty good job of just chunking them down with some creatures. Yeah. What I've ran... Well, that would be a cat meowing. Hi, sweetheart. I didn't even think about winning. I was too locked into, like, trying to articulate my thoughts in a somewhat coherent manner. But one of the unexpected... Not unexpected. But one of the happy accidental perks of our list is that sometimes you don't even need the Death Shadow. You can just beat up your opponent with some pretty fair creatures that, like, happen to be okay creatures in their own right, like this. I mean, we didn't really do anything that cute. We just played Untitled Vanguards, which are pretty aggressively costed, they're technically aggressively costed. Esper Sentinel punished our opponent's, non-creature plays, and we just beat them up until they lost, which is, like, a really nice thing that you can fall back on. Because sometimes they will be a Jund list and have, your Fatal Pushes of the world. And it's nice to just be able to bonk them over the head with, like, traditional creatures. And it's always a good spot, sincerely, and I really do believe this. Magic is always at its best when an old-fashioned, just, like, playing creatures and and a small number of non-creatures, the old-school way, can still get wins that aren't like, floods or mana screws. Our opponent played an entirely legit game, and we played an entirely legit game, and we just won by doing some pretty old school things. From two seemingly old school pilots by the evidence of Death Shadows and, guns. Anywho, wanted to thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, to subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future. And if you have any sort of, questions, I don't have X, what about Y, or any other, nice and constructive comments, I will do what I can to respond to each. Remember to stay safe out there, and, be kind. The world doesn't need more assholes. Be one of the good ones. Bye-bye.